Hey guys, it's Squiddy. I'm back with a new channel where I'm going to be exclusively talking about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. It just made a lot of sense to start a new one because, with my main channel, I've been doing a lot of shorts, more stuff geared towards casual Yu-Gi-Oh community. But I wanted to talk about side decking because we're entering this new format. There's no real major events besides like regionals that are coming up in the next week or so. So a lot of people might kind of be wondering what the best side deck options are. And here is kind of what I have so far. With a lot of decks being hit, but not so much. You still have like Yummy playable, even Malice is playable, obviously Tail, some variants of Vanquish Soul, K9, Crystron, like they're all playable. They've been nerfed somewhat in terms of consistency. To an extent, especially at the regional level, I think all of these decks are still viable, which is why I think siding Retaliating Sea is kind of a big deal right now going right into the format, because Tail is obviously going to be a very popular deck because it has a really good matchup against Yummy. A lot of the disruptions they don't really care about, things like the Book of Moon. Your fusion deck, you don't care about getting booked by the Cookie, for example, and you're able to plow through a lot of different boards that Yummy sets up as long as you can get through the Herald, which is why I think the deck's going to be popular. Retaliating Sea works amazing against it. Anytime they have like the Tail spells, all of them actually fusion summon. So obviously Rahu, Tail, they banish materials and then they banish one from hand. They don't get the trigger effect in the graveyard. They summon out a monster. Same with Ketu though. You don't even have to control a monster. This includes the effect of fusion summon built into it. So you can actually use Retaliating Sea even if they activate Ketu just without anything else on the field. So that's something that definitely comes up. Branded Fusion being another card that's now at 2. I think a lot of people will be experimenting, maybe even in Tail with it. So this card is like a 1-card clean answer, Macrocosmos, that deals with a lot of that. It makes them essentially go neg 1. So they can make like the Tail guy who bounces it back to your hand, which is fine because we're not losing any cards. And then we also trade at least with one or more of the cards from their hand. So I think that is really, really useful. And on top of that, you shut down all of the graveyard effects. And this card can also search for Contact Cease. I don't know how good this card is because obviously if people catch on, they're going to start playing like Cross Sheep and Yummy. And same in Tail, they can potentially sequence their plays so they're not fusion locked immediately. And then they can link away with Contact Sea. I'm not like the biggest fan of this card, but just know that it can actually search for it. But I think Retaliating Sea, especially if you're a Yummy player, is one of the key ways to win in the Tail matchup because this card can be an automatic blowout. And they basically have to chain like a 5 mana to circumvent it, but then fusion spell will still resolve after Retaliating Sea hits the tables. Also, I am starting a brand new MetaFi community called the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. So I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff here in terms of guides. There's going to be a lot of in-depth content, including masterclasses. A lot of stuff right now is for free, so definitely check it out. With Lancia and Droll Knockbird, I think that because we don't know what the meta game is going to be, we should probably play these cards just because they're very good against Malice. I know Malice did get hit in the form of the Splash Mage and then the Dormouse to 1, but the deck is still really good, which is why I think Lancia should still be sided in for the first little bit of the format. And then if Malice kind of falls off, then we can take it out. But I think going into an event immediately, if you have like an event next weekend, it's good to play as safe as possible. People are still going to be playing their old decks. Some people still have their Malice decks. They're not going to bother wanting to get a new deck or getting new cards. So having an answer for that, and Lancia is like one of the cleanest answers to that deck. If they have a bunch of extenders, doesn't matter if Splash Mage is gone, they still have the Lizardos plus the SP Little Knight. So as long as they have a monster effect in the graveyard they haven't used yet in the banish, then they can just banish that name and it's still the same thing. So Splash Mage doesn't matter that much in that sense. Droll Knockbird, I think pure Mitsurugi. A lot of people are kind of playing this deck now because they realize that the Vanquish Soul is basically gone. Vanquish Soul is like one of the harder matchups going second with pure Mitsurugi because you can't Mirakumo wipe when they have the field spell up or when they have the Vanquish Soul Dust Devil or the Snow Devil rather. So they're always protecting against the Mirakumo wipe and then you just can't clear anything. But now that this deck is severely hampered after the ban list literally just like destroyed Raisin and Sacred Soul, I think Pure Mitsu is in a really, really favorable position right now, and it's one of the decks that can play the Dominus Impulse very well. Hasn't gotten hit besides King of the Pharaoh Imps, but you don't really need that card in the pure variant. It's more like in the Rise Heal deck that comes up. So for that reason, I think side decking Droll Knockbird is a good idea right now. Also, the other thing was Lancia. You can also hit the Crystron decks. Yes, I know that Crystron might fall a little bit more in popularity, but you can still stop like their banished effects in the graveyard. It's not like the best card because they still have the K9 stuff and it turns on Azuna, but it's still something. So I mean, like in my opinion, just for Malice and then, the odd Crystron deck you might actually come up, or like the Orcus deck. People might be playing Orcus, so that has a little bit of crossover, I think. So for that reason, I think Lancia is still really good. And then I think every deck should obviously have the going first cards, at least 3. So the Solemn Warning is really good. I'm glad they hit Solemn Judgment. I actually think that card is very, very powerful, especially in Yummy, because Yummy, I think moving forward, are going to side 6 Solemns to protect against board breakers. And if they had Judgment, that card is just auto win when you have a board because you always stop like the Lightning Storm or the Dark Ruler or whatever it is, or the Pankratops. But the next best thing is Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike. Unfortunately, it does get blown out by Lightning Storm now that that card's at 3. They definitely made a strategic move where they brought that back and then put Judgment to 1 because they were thinking like, oh, okay, now against Yummies, if you go second, you can just throw down a board breaker into their hat board after you hand trap them, or you can just use multiple board breakers to try and push through. So I kind of like how they hit the Solemn Judgment to 1. It makes it where you have a paradox. Even if you open the Super Nuts board and you have Solemn Warning, if they have like a Lightning Storm or a Harpies, they can still win despite us going first and full comboing in the Yummy board. But that being said, I still think you should play these cards. They're very, very good equalizer cards against cards like Fuelos. So if you get Fuad, you end on like a Meteor Core board, maybe 1 or 2 disruptions. But having like a Solemn card is just insane. Using a Solemn on like a normal summon or anything else can just be game ending. So in my opinion, you should definitely play this for the fact that it strengthens the end board. And then it also makes it so in the event where we have a weaker board because we got hand trapped to death, this card actually makes it so we can still win because it's just so strong against all of the normal summon mechanics in the game right now. And I think Harpy's Feather Duster is really, really good because, again, we just talked about Solemn Judgment being to 1. So you're always going to be able to clear the back row. And a lot of times, Solemn Warning and other problematic cards, you know, they have the Yummy Quick Play spell, the Surprise in the back row. Being able to wipe it away with Harpy's Feather Duster, in my opinion, is really, really good. So I think this card is actually better than Lightning Storm right now because 9 times out of 10, it feels like nowadays you're just using it for the back row anyways. All the monsters are always in defense mode or they just like, you know, have a way to protect themselves or whatever. So the back row is the cards that we have to deal with the most, and Harpies is better if you compare them 1-to-1 because anytime you have like a mid grind game where you already committed cards to the table, you can top deck like a Harpies and still use it. So for that reason alone, I think Harpies is, in my opinion, I would side it for going second. Then there are a couple of flex spots. I mean, yes, technically you could just say you could take a gamble and just not play Droll Knockbird or play less going first cards and just play more flex spots. But I would say here's some cards you can consider. Dinosaur Pankratops, really, really good. It's 2-for-1 against Yummy. If you can hand trap them a bunch of times, they have a mid board. This card can help you push through, especially getting rid of Herald if you're playing Draco Tail. That's like the problematic monster that you have to deal with, and this kind of guarantees that you do, provided they don't have a Solemn Trap card. You can just try and swing over and then pop it. Lightning Storm, obviously really good now that it's at 3. I think I could definitely see side decks playing 3 copies of Lightning Storm and 1 Harpies just to deal with the back row. If the Solemn Traps become popular, I could definitely see that happening. And if that happens, then we have to kind of pivot and then move away from Solemn cards and maybe play more blanket cards like the Mistaken Arrest or Chainables, you know, like D-Barrier. Magic Deflector obviously is another one that's kind of cool. Depending on what deck you're playing against, it shuts down field spells, continuous, and equipped and quick plays. Raigeki is also another cool one against Yummies because you can play Raigeki. They're forced to use the effect of the Surprise to bring back a Synchro, and then you can deal with that, so it's slightly easier to deal with. If you have double Raigeki or Raigeki plus any other board wipe, then that's oftentimes you just game because you're able to push through. Dark Ruler is kind of the same thing as Raigeki, but I guess like compared to Raigeki, the only downside is that Herald will be able to negate the Raigeki, whereas Dark Ruler just deals with that, so you can have Dark Ruler plus another card for the Surprise, and then you're able to push through. But now that Obedient School is at 1, we might actually see more Heralds on the end boards because they're not starting with the lock there. So that's just one thing to consider when you think about Raigeki and Dark Ruler. And Spellcard Monsterborn is a cool card. So this card can target a monster in either player's graveyard, special summon it to your field. But for the rest of the turn, it cannot attack or declare an effect. But against the Yummy matchup, if you're playing like a mirror, sometimes this could be useful if they only have the 2 names in the graveyard. You can use this, chain it, and then summon back 1. They still get to summon back the other one because it's up to 2. But you get an extender on your field and you're disrupting theirs at the same time. So it's almost like a 2-for-1, which is kind of cool. This card has a lot of marginal utility. You can reborn something that you can link off with if it has the right attribute. In some decks, you know, going in the Charmers, stuff like that. And then actually, it only applies for the rest of this turn. So if you summon like a Yummy Snatchy or something, on your opponent's turn, you're going to be able to use the effect. So that's kind of cool how that is a quick play spell card and it comes up. Another card obviously would be Book of Eclipse. Everyone's kind of on this card now. The only drawback is it does get stopped by Dominus Purge and Ash Blossom because it draws in the end phase. It's all one effect. So unfortunately, that's just like a drawback of the card. But yeah, anyways, these are just my initial thoughts about the metagame just from a theoretical perspective. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.